All right, we are going to show you how to safely use a hand router and how to use a tabletop router. That's what we're going to do today. Now, the hand router is a very, very simple tool to use. It really has a dramatic effect on your projects, but it can be a dangerous piece of equipment if you do not use it correctly. Now, on our safety sheet right here, you always need to have safety glasses and possible hearing protection on. If you want hearing protection, just make sure you ask the teacher and he will provide that for you. So we need safety glasses. Now I forgot my safety glasses. I'll be right back. I got them up here on the counter. So I got my safety glasses too. We always follow the manufacturer's advice on how to use these. Now, we got to insert, I made sure these are not plugged in before I go and touch them. We got to insert. Now, on steps 1 through 5 here, the teacher will do. Not that I don't trust you, it's just that the routers can be kind of finicky as far as how they tighten up and stuff like that. So the teachers will do step 1 through 5. You got to wear eye protection and stuff. On the third statement, 3/4 of the bit got to be inserted inside the collet. There's a collet that's in there. That's what holds the router bit in. So the shaft of the router bit goes in the collet, and the teacher will make sure that that's put in correctly. We got to make sure on the plate right here, some router bits require different plates as far as sizes. And that's why I said the teacher will do that. Now, if you're doing this at home, you'll have to do a little bit more reading on that to make sure that you have the right thing. Always keep the routers unplugged when you're changing this stuff. What we want to do too, and you need to also do this, is look at the routers, look at them, to make sure there's no major chips in the knives. All right, there's carbide tips on here. Make sure there's no major damage. Sometimes they get dropped and things happen, so check them over. If something doesn't look right, call the teacher over. We're going to use the router, table, and the fence, and we're going to demonstrate how to safely use our router tables too. This is the handheld version versus the table version. We're going to show you the differences. We have a bearing on here. All of our routers will have bearings on them, so they will only cut so deep into the wood. So we have these bearings on, which are very, very useful. But when you go to cut a sign, words inside, you don't need that bearing on there, and that bearing would be restrictive on what you can do with this. There are thousands and thousands of shapes of router bits that you can pick and choose from. It's endless. We are only going to do 2 in this room. We're going to do a round over and more of a cove cut, and those will be your options. If we want to cut off a lot of wood, we're going to make 2 passes, and I will show you that when we get to especially the cove bit. Multi-passes is better than trying to take it all in one pass. Never start the router touching the board. Full power, then engage the board. Never start it with this, because you're going to guarantee you're going to destroy your project if you do that, and you hurt the router. We always want to go clockwise with this, all right? Close your eyes if you have to, and think of a clock. We want to go clockwise. But there is a difference. Hand routers go left to right clockwise, whereas a table router will go just the opposite, because the router is mounted up underneath there. And I will talk about that when we get back there. Keep your fingers outside of these guards. Your fingers should never go up underneath here, and we'll show you the guards on the table. Never run the piece between the fence and the cutting bit, and we'll show you how we restrict you from doing that. Keep the router down until it has stopped moving. Alright? Now, we're going to show you how to safely use the router. We have router clamps that you can use. This one right here and this one. There is a difference there. This one has a cutting board router on it, and this one doesn't. This is for 3/4 inch guaranteed board, and this one is boards that are a little bit under 3/4 of an inch for some reason. But all of our project boards should be 3/4. So, I'm going to use a guaranteed 3/4. We are going to put this in the vise. Alright? Now, you can put it in the vise this way, that way, but does that way make any sense when I go to twist the handle, it's going to hit? No. So make sure you put this in the correct way, and we want to tighten this down. Alright? We want to tighten it down to make sure this does not move. I grabbed just a piece of scrap board for this demonstration to show you. So now I'm going to clamp this up. You can hear it click, you can feel the pressure on the board. Now we have several different styles of routers. One style right here is this way, and another style has a handle grip on, and I'll show you how to use both. Basically, these are the same routers. There is no difference in the routers except for this handle. By putting this handle on the router, you can add $150 to the cost of the router. Now, we have both, so you have the opportunity of using both, because at home, I don't have a handle on it. I refuse to pay the $150 because this is just as good and it's a lot less expensive. Alright, so we also have this router, and I'll demonstrate that one. So the first thing we want to do is we want to get our boards ready, go get our router ready, get the clamps. I want to plug this in, but before we plug it in, always push the on and off switch once to make sure it's not on. Plug it in. Now, we're going to hang on to this. It has two handles. Make sure you use both handles. These black ones are all round over, and this is the only one that's a cold one. So now we're going to grab this, we're going to sit it flat on there, make sure we arm's length away. Those of you that are out for football, you know that if you have your hands right here, your opponent's going to push you over. If your hands get out here, you have much more control. Now, I want to be right there. If you notice, my arms are out, my hands are on. I'm going to router around this edge. Remember, I got to go clockwise. So I'm going to start it up, hang on to that board, make sure that that router bit is not touching the board. So I'm going to start it up full power, engage the board, and roll around. Now, is there sometimes I can go back a little bit? Absolutely. Sometimes I need to do more passes, and I'll show you that. Look at this style router has a handle right there, and it also has an on and off switch, so if it doesn't work, you turn that on, but this is really the on and off button. You gotta hold that router until it absolutely stops. Have control over it. I like to look at the router bit and hold like this so I can make sure that that router is never ever spinning. We never set it down. That's how I use the handle style. Here's how I use this style. It's almost done the exact same way. The only difference is how we start it up. Alright, now, if you take a look, both of our hands are on here. I don't have the trigger switch here, so I'm gonna reach up here and this is how I turn it on. So what I wanna do is make sure it's resting solidly on the base, away from the board, and I'm gonna turn it on. If you notice, I'm still hanging on to it. Be very careful using the router. Now that's how we do the round over. Let's show you the cold cut bit. And we'll show you how to safely use that. This is much more of an aggressive router tip on this. So when you go to use it, you've got to make sure that you have control of the router. Click. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go into here, it's done the exact same way. Make sure the switch is on. Alright, we're going to hang on to it. If you notice, that required multi-passes. Here is the what we did here. The first two routers were just round over. The next one was a cold one. So you need to be selective on your project, what you prefer and where you like this. Could you use a combination of the two? Absolutely. These are hand routers. Now, when you use a hand router, a couple things on that is make sure it just kind of recaps some of the safety. Make sure you hang on to that router while it's operating. Never set it down while it's still going. Make sure you never have the router bit touching the board when you start it up. And one of the most important things is this is, if you're a little apprehensive about using the router for the first time, we understand that. Make sure you ask the teacher to come over and the teacher will help you get through that. Now, what we're going to do then is we're going to go back and show you the router table. Now the router table we have set up for two different styles. The one style is set up for just an absolute straight board. Just like a handheld one, you can have a choice or use a combination of handheld or using the router tables. That will be your choice to use on your projects. Let me show you the difference between this one and this one. This one is set up the exact same way. The only difference is it has a fence right here for you to use. And it also has that collet on it, or excuse me, a little guide on it to help you so you don't go too deep. Now, how do we use this? We have arrows on here. You've got to make sure that you follow the direction. Since this is going counterclockwise, because the router is literally mounted up underneath, it's upside down. So, a little bit loud, so now if you notice, there's a plastic guard here. You never ever stick your fingers in that plastic guard. When I push it through, this board is plenty long. If you're gonna put a narrow board, You gotta push through, then engage the board once it comes out of the other side. This is for straight routering only. These are both round over. Now let me demonstrate this one, how this one's set up a little differently. This has a guard on it. It has a router bit like the hand one. Alright, it has like a router bit like the hand one. This has a guard that fits over the top. What is this primarily for? Could I do straight routering with it? Absolutely. But this works good for this because if you take a look, I don't have a fence back here. Now I can follow the contour of irregular shapes on this router. A couple safety things. There is hand routing versus table routing. It accomplishes the same task. The only difference is some of you will find that maybe a table routing works a little easier for you. Keep your hands out of the guarded area. If you have any questions on any of the routers, make sure you ask the teacher.